There are folks out there that believe CJ Stroud might be regressing a little bit. And we got to get to it, man. We got to have this conversation. Um, I believe that the sophomore slump is a real thing. I think though we also have to give him a little bit of grace too, because I think that you know, I think that when you look at it, you have to come at it from a perspective that he had such a stellar rookie season that maybe the expectations were set so high for him. And this were some of my thoughts during the summer when he rolled out the podcast and Micah Parsons, the whole 9 yards and all that. I wanted to make sure that he was still focused on ball because sometimes you can get too big for your bridges. And especially for a team like Houston that has all the talent in the world, have a new head coach, they seem like they're ready to make a push for this thing, right? You got to ask yourself this question. Is CJ Stroud mentally in the right place to lead the Texans right this year? Or did he put too much pressure on himself going into the season? Dan, I know you were a big believer of CJ Stroud and the Houston
Yeah.
Texans going into the year. And listen, their record is still positive, right? They're still in a situation where they're going to make the playoffs, and they can do some good things. But I think that the expectation was just that they would take the next step. Really curious to hear your thoughts, though.
The Houston Texans, what concerns me, not, isn't about making the playoffs. It's about what they can do against these great teams because they're a team that just look lethargic. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that they've been without Nico Collins for a little portion of the season. They've been without Stephon Diggs, for the rest of the season now. Tank Dell hasn't stepped up. And I feel like he has hit a sophomore slump. And I feel like CJ Stroud, I'll say it myself. I put too much on him, right? I kind of put him on the pedestal, without letting him fully develop as an NFL quarterback. And I think that's where we have to be slower. And this was, my thought process. We have to be slower to crown these guys, right? He had a very good season. He had an excellent season, but we have to see sustained success at the NFL level. We have to see sustained success from an offense in general, right? We were all crowning Bobby Slowick, saying Bobby Slowick is the next this, is the next that. But the issue with this team has also been the offensive line play has been putrid. And last year, that was the thing. It was like, holy shit, how are they making it work with this terrible offensive line? Is it the scheme? Is it the checks? Is it having the tight end come in a block? How are they getting these, bottom five offensive linemen to look great? And I think that they just were on a magical run last year. And I think that they're still a very good team, but they're a team that hasn't looked dominant, right? Obviously, we're going to get to our Joe Mixon topic in a little bit. Joe Mixon has also not looked like a top 5 running back. The thing with Joe Mixon, the reason why he's having a lot of success with them too is, first off, he's getting the ball a ton. He's averaging 15 to 20 carries a game. So it's simply the fact that you're putting the ball in Mixon's hands is boosting up his yardage. You're getting him in these goal line situations, but this offense just hasn't looked fluid all season, right? CJ Stroud has looked jumbled in the pocket. He's looked like he has happy feet in the pocket, and this is part of the growing pains of having a young quarterback. So when I look at the Texans, I think we were far too early crowning them to say, hey, this team is of the upper echelon of teams. I think that they're a fine team. I think that they're a good team, but they're not a superstar team. They're not that next dark horse team to make the Super Bowl yet. They're not on the tier of the Ravens, of the Buffalo Bills, of the Kansas City Chiefs. They're just not there yet, Malik. And I think that this is a team that has to go through the rough patches with their injuries. And I think that CJ Stroud has to go through these rough patches. So I think that he'll be fine, and I think that he will turn it around. But we were definitely too quick to crown this dude as the next top 5
We,
quarterback.
we.
I think, well, maybe not you, but the entire media, I would say there was a large sentiment, I mean, myself included, that was saying that this team, was a surefire playoff team. They're likely going to make the playoffs. They're a
Mhm.
surefire 10+ win team, and they're a surefire team that's going to potentially be that next team to push for
Yeah.
the Super Bowl. But I think that they got to get healthy, and it really is going to be a testament to say, hey, CJ Stroud, how well can he work outside of the structure of his offense? Because the structure of the offense isn't looking good right now. And Malik, they just lost a divisional game to Will Levis and the
Mhm.
Titans.
I think that when you look at it, there was a comment made from West Hude, our guy. He says just one game, don't chastise him too much. I think it's been more than one game. Let's start there. I think that when you come out and you put yourself on a level of some of these upper echelon quarterbacks, people tend to grade you such as that, right? CJ Stroud spoke so highly of himself, as you should, of course. Um, but when you look at the results, 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions this season, has had a couple of games where he has not even passed for 200 yards this season. One game where he passed for 86 yards. It's been bad at spots. It's been bad at spots for CJ Stroud this year. And that's why I kind of started the show by saying, hey, maybe just focusing a little bit more in on ball might be the best course of action for him if he's going to be able to take the team to the next level. I think that they've surrounded him with a lot of talent, and albeit he has some of his receivers in that lineup, they lost Stephon Diggs for the season. But you think that if your quarterback is elite in putting himself in the top 5 as he did
Yeah,
after
that's a
year one, you'd expect him to really uplift, be able to uplift the talent that is around him, and we just haven't really seen that, Daniel.
Yeah, and to like address Sean's question, we're not bailing on CJ Stroud. We're just saying that this is the growing pains, and I think that that's where my thought process and my analysis with this goes is Stroud is a good quarterback, and the expectation that was put upon him, for right or for wrong, is this dude is going to be an MVP candidate. That was the expectation, and that's kind
Mhm,
of what we're going off of here.
mhm.
Is we're not saying this dude is a trash quarterback, but we're going off of the expectation that was put on CJ Stroud, and that's what we're trying to. This whole conversation is how can we, improve not only the quality of us talking sports, but to understand this, and the understanding and the portion that I learned from this is it's okay to not crown a CJ Stroud early on in his NFL career. That's something. Same thing with Bryce Young. It's okay to not put him in a box that this is
It,
what he's going to be for the rest of his
it's
career.
okay to let guys grow.
Yes.
In a league that's starving for the next star always, right? We're always looking to uplift the next star always. It's okay to let these guys grow, man.
Mhm.
It's okay to let these guys grow into their own. That's fine. That's fine to
Yeah.
do. No one is judging that, right? Like, but we got to stop with oh, this guy is going to be better than this guy. And you know what I mean? Like it's so um short-sighted thinking, I believe, man.
Yeah.
And that's just my thoughts on CJ Stroud. That's why I was as bullish as I was in the offseason and as bullish as I am now. Let them grow as players. Like, let's stop trying to crown these people. I think everybody's so envious of having that hot take, if you will. I think CJ Stroud was crowned way too early for a guy that has so much more to achieve in our sport.
Yeah, no, and that's where I think for me, the hard part looking at it is the NFL it really is about availability. And I think that's where for me, I was really looking at it saying, hey, I struggled to see how with Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, who all three guys I was extremely high on,
Mhm,
how they could look worse than they did last year. And I think that
mhm.
that's where my thought process was. And uh, it's something you got to like, I'm learning from and saying, hey, okay, well, what's the depth behind those guys? The NFL is not all, peaches and sunshine. It's not all, clean slate of health. And CJ Stroud is a quarterback where it's shown so far this year where, hey, when he's got those guys on the field, when Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs early on in the season, this offense was humming.
Mhm.
And the same thing, the game that we saw, CJ Stroud not throw the ball a ton, they were running the ball a ton, and they had a huge success with Joe Mixon. But it's the same thing we'll discuss in our overreactions. Like, it's a long football season, and it is 17 weeks. Same thing with Jaden Daniels. These quarterbacks and these guys, you have to put together a lengthy stretch of not week to week
Mhm.
superstar success, but just consistency.
Mhm.
And we got to see that with CJ Stroud. And same thing, my thought process here is I just need to see them make the playoffs first because it's not a given that they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's